You walk into a room and stop dead. You have no idea why you're there. You were just thinking about it 30 seconds ago, and now it's completely gone. You stand there, running through a mental checklist, feeling a low-grade panic creeping in. Am I losing my mind? Is something seriously wrong with me? Here's what nobody tells you. That moment, that maddening, frustrating blank, has a name. It has a biological explanation. And it starts with a hormone you probably think you already understand. This is brain fog, and if you're in your late 30s, 40s, or 50s, there's a very real chance it's not stress, not poor sleep, not age. It's your hormones, specifically, the way they're quietly rewiring your brain chemistry without asking your permission. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what's happening inside your brain during hormonal fluctuation, and why that matters far more than most doctors ever tell you. Let's get one thing clear first. Brain fog is not a medical diagnosis. You won't find it on a lab report. But anyone who's experienced it knows it's completely real. The inability to concentrate, the mental fatigue that hits at 2 p.m. like a wall, words that dissolve before you can say them, decisions that feel enormous when they should be simple. Most women describe it as thinking through wet concrete. Everything takes longer. Everything feels harder. What's actually happening is a disruption in how efficiently your brain processes and transmits information. And to understand that, we need to talk about neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that your brain runs on. Think of them like the electrical wiring in a house. When the wiring is stable, everything works. Lights come on, appliances run, the whole system hums along. When something disrupts that wiring, you get flickering lights, power cuts, rooms that just don't work right. The main players here are dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, and GABA. Each one governs something different: motivation, mood, memory, and calm, respectively. And here's the critical piece. All of them are directly influenced by one hormone: estrogen. Estrogen is not just a reproductive hormone. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in women's health. Yes, it regulates your cycle. But it also acts as a neurosteroid, meaning it crosses the blood-brain barrier and directly affects how your brain functions. Here's what estrogen actually does in your brain. It increases the production and sensitivity of serotonin receptors, which is why mood tends to shift when estrogen drops. It supports dopamine signaling in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus, planning, and decision-making. It promotes acetylcholine activity, which is central to memory formation and learning. And it has anti-inflammatory effects in brain tissue that protect neurons from damage over time. Now imagine all of that suddenly fluctuating, not disappearing overnight, but rising and dropping erratically, month after month, sometimes week after week, especially in the perimenopause years. That's not a gradual adjustment, that's a neurochemical storm. This is why brain fog during hormonal transition isn't just in your head, in the dismissive sense. It's literally, physiologically in your head. Your brain is trying to function while its primary chemical regulator is unstable. And here's where it gets even more interesting, because estrogen doesn't work alone. There's a whole cascade of hormonal interactions happening simultaneously, and when one domino falls, it takes several others with it. When estrogen starts fluctuating, progesterone often follows, and progesterone is your brain's natural calming agent. It binds to GABA receptors, the same pathway that anti-anxiety medications target. Stable progesterone means a quieter, more focused nervous system. Dropping progesterone means your brain becomes more reactive, more easily overwhelmed, and far less able to filter out distraction. Now add cortisol into the equation. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, produced by the adrenal glands. Here's the problem. When estrogen and progesterone drop, the body often ramps up cortisol to compensate for the hormonal instability. Your nervous system is essentially going into low-grade alert mode. Elevated cortisol does several things that are particularly brutal for cognitive function. It impairs the hippocampus, the brain's memory consolidation center. It reduces neuroplasticity, meaning your brain becomes less adaptable and slower to form new connections. And chronically elevated cortisol actually shrinks dendritic branching, the physical structures neurons use to communicate with each other. So you have falling estrogen reducing serotonin and dopamine support, falling progesterone making the brain more anxious and reactive, and rising cortisol actively degrading memory and focus. These aren't separate problems. They're one interconnected system unraveling at the same time. That's not forgetfulness. That's a physiological siege. Let's talk about something most people don't connect: the relationship between vasomotor symptoms, hot flashes and night sweats, and cognitive function. When estrogen drops, the hypothalamus, which regulates body temperature, loses its calibration. It misreads your body's internal temperature and triggers a heat dissipation response, a hot flash. Your heart rate spikes, blood vessels dilate, you sweat. This happens in seconds, and it can happen dozens of times a day. But here's what research has started to show. Hot flashes aren't just uncomfortable. They're associated with measurable disruptions in cerebral blood flow. During a hot flash, the brain experiences micro-fluctuations in blood supply. Over time, frequent hot flashes have been correlated with reduced white matter integrity, essentially small changes in the brain's communication infrastructure. Women who experience more frequent and severe hot flashes also report significantly higher rates of cognitive complaints. This isn't coincidence. The same hormonal disruption causing the heat response is also affecting the brain's vascular environment and neurotransmitter balance simultaneously. And nighttime hot flashes compound this further. Sleep fragmentation from night sweats means you're losing the deep sleep stages where memory consolidation actually happens, where your brain files the day's information into long-term storage. Cut that short repeatedly, and you're not just tired, you're cognitively deficient in ways that accumulate. So what can you actually do about this? Because understanding it is one thing, but you need practical ground to stand on. Let's get into that. First, let's be clear. This is not a one-size-fits-all situation, and anyone who tells you otherwise is oversimplifying. But there are evidence-backed strategies that directly address the hormonal neurochemical connection. Nutrition. Estrogen metabolism relies heavily on specific nutrients: magnesium, B vitamins, especially B6 and B12, and omega-3 fatty acids. Magnesium supports GABA receptors and helps regulate cortisol. B vitamins are essential for neurotransmitter synthesis. Omega-3s protect the structural integrity of brain cell membranes and reduce neuroinflammation. These aren't supplements to take casually. They're building blocks your brain is actively trying to use. Blood sugar stability. Estrogen helps regulate insulin sensitivity. As estrogen declines, blood sugar becomes more erratic, and every spike and crash is another hit to your cognitive clarity. Prioritizing protein, healthy fats, and fiber at every meal isn't just nutritional advice, it's brain chemistry management. Exercise, specifically resistance training and moderate cardio. Both increase BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially fertilizer for neurons. BDNF supports memory, learning, and neuroplasticity. It's one of the most powerful tools you have for counteracting the cognitive effects of hormonal decline. Sleep. This deserves its own conversation, but protecting sleep architecture, the actual stages of sleep, not just hours, is non-negotiable. That may mean addressing night sweats directly, working with a healthcare provider, adjusting your environment, or all of the above. Hormone support. For many women, menopausal hormone therapy is a clinically appropriate option that can significantly reduce cognitive symptoms. If you've dismissed it based on outdated information from the early 2000s, it's worth revisiting the current evidence with a knowledgeable provider. This is a conversation worth having, not avoiding. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Brain fog during perimenopause and menopause is not weakness. It's not aging poorly. It's not you failing at life. It is your brain responding to a profound hormonal shift that affects its core operating system. The fog is real. The science behind it is real. And the path through it starts with understanding what's actually happening, not just managing symptoms in the dark. When you know that estrogen is a neurosteroid, that progesterone calms your nervous system, that cortisol can structurally alter your brain over time, you stop blaming yourself. You start asking better questions. You advocate for yourself in medical settings. You make choices that are actually aligned with what your brain needs right now. If this kind of deep, evidence-based conversation about women's health and hormones resonates with you, Elevated Woman Lab exists exactly for this. Every piece of content here is built around helping you understand your body at a level that actually changes how you live in it. Subscribe, explore, and bring your questions, because this community is built on the idea that informed women make better decisions for themselves. You're not losing your mind. You're navigating one of the most significant biological transitions of your life. And now, you know a little more about how to do that.